as we finally get to share Google's vision for the future of games. 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 As we finally get to share Google's vision for the future of games.
Today's video is sponsored by .tech domains. If you're into tech, you're going to want to get yourself a .tech domain. For the website that you're building, whether it's for yourself, your business, or just to show off your hobby, getting something that's short and sweet really works. So getting something like ufd.tech is something that we had to do in order to represent our brand appropriately, and that's where our friends over at .tech domains helped us out, got us ufd.tech. We use that, and if you're a techie, you're going to want to go ahead and get yourself a .tech domain. And this upcoming Black Friday, you're going to be able to get your own .tech domain for up to 90% off. And if you use the link in the video description, go.tech/UFDtech, you can pre-register for the sale before November 26th and get an additional 10% off of the sale price that you're going to experience on Black Friday. So not only are you going to have that Black Friday deal, but if you use the link right now before November 26th, you get an extra 10% off of that final price. It's a great deal. If you're into tech, you're going to want to get yourself a .tech domain. So Google Stadia is here. Is it the future of games? Well, I got to spend some time with it, and I'm here to discuss that today, considering the fact that Stadia is one of the first publicly available streaming game services that is done by a reputable company, not talking about Ouya or any of the other ones that have been done previously, but this has some backing behind it with the likes of Google, which, even though this is their first foray into official gaming, they do have the resources to kind of put the server infrastructure behind it, which is a huge part of cloud gaming, is having local server access to make sure that the latency that you're going to experience while you're playing a game at your TV, at your computer, or on your Pixel phone right now is seamless and actually feels enjoyable, as opposed to having a server on the other side of the country and then it takes 4 seconds for your input to get a response on the screen. So has Google accomplished this? Are they bringing a worthwhile gaming experience? That's what I'm here to answer for you today, after spending some time with my Stadia Founders Edition, which got delivered today, much to the chagrin of a ton of people. And we're going to get into the cons of this entire thing a little later on, but suffice it to say that with the Founders Edition that got delivered, you get a few things. One is obviously the Stadia controller. Then on top of that, you have the wall outlet to charge the device, as well as the charging or connection cable to charge the controller or connect it to your PC if you want to play on a Chrome browser. Then you have the Chromecast Ultra plus the power cable, and then finally instruction sets. So the ways that you can play Google Stadia right now are either on the Chromecast Ultra, which it's only the Chromecast Ultra that ships with the Founders Edition right now. If you have any other Chromecast Ultra, that will be coming in a later firmware update. I tried it on my NVIDIA Shield TV Pro, which has a Chromecast 4K built in, and it just gave me the notice that it has to be updated for it to be supported in the future. So you have the Chromecast Ultra, then you also can play on any Chrome browser, so it doesn't actually matter what computer you're running it on. If you have a MacBook Air, you have a Chromebook, or you have something like this Wootware Wootbook Ultrabook right here, you can play it as long as you're using the Chrome browser. And then finally, it's supported on, I believe it's all the way down to the Pixel 2 generation of Pixel smartphones. So Pixel 2 all the way up to the Pixel 4 XL, and you should be able to play Stadia connected to that, but you have to hardwire it via a Type-C to Type-C connector to the phone, which is not included with the Founders Edition. You're going to have to use the one that came with your phone. So all of this cost $130, and with that $130, I got probably a pretty decent console gaming experience. That's exactly what I want to compare Stadia to, is how does it compare to something like a PlayStation 4 Pro or Xbox One X? How is the experience there? And to be quite honest, given the fact that it was $130 for this, plus you still have to pay for games just like any other console, it's remarkably value friendly. I actually really enjoy it, considering the price. And if the $130 is too steep for you for the Founders Edition or the Premier Edition, which is currently on sale, you can just buy the controller for $70 right now and then either get the free service that Google's going to be launching next year or pay $10 a month for the Pro service. And with the Founders Edition and Premier Edition, you get 3 months free of that Pro service, which just gives you up to 4K, 60 FPS, HDR, the best type of gameplay that you could want, whereas the free version is going to give you up to 1080p, which is good for the majority of people, at least in my opinion. Especially if you don't get the Chromecast Ultra, you're not playing on a 4K TV, you're probably playing on a crappy laptop or some age-old desktop that your parents gave you that's just like running Windows XP. As long as you can install Chrome, then you can have Red Dead Redemption 2 on that freaking age-old computer. But while you can get the game on that computer, is it worth it? Is the latency with Google Stadia just gonna ruin your experience so that you can't enjoy the games? In my experience, no. And in this video, I'm not gonna go into a deep dive of the technical analysis of the latency and how many milliseconds it took for me to click the button to respond. I did get some 120 FPS shots, and you can see just what the response time is based on this. However, if you wanna check out more of a technical analysis, you can check out Eurogamer's article that we'll leave a link in the video description. And suffice it to say, it seems like it adds about 40 to 80% more latency than on a typical console. However, from a normal consumer's point of view, somebody who just wants to enjoy single player games or enjoy multiplayer games in a casual manner, who's not actually very good at them, which is basically me, honestly, the latency is not noticeable to the point where I wouldn't consider picking this up, especially given the value that Google's bringing here. So for me, the extra latency that I experienced in Destiny 2 and Red Dead Redemption 2 is made up for the fact that, one, I hardly paid anything to get that experience, and then two, while I may be experiencing greater increase in time while playing the game with response times, which it's not making the game unplayable, it's actually quite enjoyable. I could sit and play Destiny 2 on my TV all day with the Stadia experience because I'm just a casual gamer. But it saved me a ton of time when it came to actually accessing the game. So you can see right here in real time, when I decided to purchase Red Dead Redemption 2 for Google Stadia, I clicked pay on my phone, and then nearly instantly, it popped up on the Google Stadia Chromecast, which allowed me to then just load right into it. So there was no downloading the game, there was no update, there was no patch, there's nothing besides instantaneous access to the game that I purchased. And that's one of the huge values that I see with Stadia. Compare this to the new PlayStation 4 Pro that I picked up since I recently moved back to the United States, and my download time with my gigabit connection, mind you, because PlayStation servers are garbage, was 6 hours to download. So as opposed to a game that I already own and I have to download versus a game that I just picked up on my phone is instantly accessible with Google Stadia. And then on top of the instantaneous access, it's also where you get to play. You can play it with the Chromecast Ultra on something like my Razer Raptor monitor right here. It's just hooked up to the HDMI port, and there you go. It's live right now, bam. I can actually access Google Stadia right now. Or if I wanted to, all I would have to do is connect the USB cable from the Stadia controller to this Ultrabook right here, and then be able to play AAA games like Red Dead Redemption 2 on this notebook, no problem. Or alternatively, you whip out your Pixel 4 XL, you plug it in with Type-C to Type-C, and then bam, Red Dead Redemption 2 on your phone, as long as you're connected to the Wi-Fi wherever you want. So that's a lot of the pros of Google Stadia, but there's a ton of cons to also go through, which kind of hamper my excitement a little bit. Number one is obviously the limited selection that happened here at launch. There's only 22 games that came out, with a lot of them just being so-so games that have been out forever. Rise of the Tomb Raider, great game, been out for several years. Red Dead Redemption 2 is obviously one of the big AAA titles. Assassin's Creed Odyssey, as well as Metro Exodus, which was added yesterday, and Final Fantasy 15. It's not the greatest selection, only 22 games, but Google is promising that they're going to be bringing out more, and a lot of the heavy hitters, such as like Cyberpunk 2077, have been promised to come on Stadia next year. But with Google, it appears that the promises really don't matter, because there's a lot of limited features here at launch that aren't being established. But worse than that, there's a lot of unredeemed codes for Google Stadia owners who pre-ordered on day one that Google still hasn't delivered via email. One of the things that Google promised was that everything was going to be on a first come, first served basis. So the codes for you to get access to Stadia so that you can choose your name and be able to have the pristine #1 Brett spot, well, that didn't actually happen, and they're still looking into what the cause of that issue was. So if you pre-ordered the Google Stadia Founders Edition and you got it on day one, well, you got screwed, but somebody like me who didn't order until September, I got mine delivered on launch day because Google just doesn't care about keeping promises and didn't seem to prioritize the people who actually did it first. I am happy that I have mine, but it sucks that it comes at the expense of people who were way ahead of me in line for purchasing the Founders Edition. And then talking about limited feature set, there's a Google Assistant button right here on the controller that just doesn't work right now. It's not viable. Also, screenshots don't work on anything besides the TV or the PC. You can't use them on Pixel devices at the moment. And the Chromecast Ultra, as I mentioned earlier, can only be used with the one that ships with the Founders Edition, not any other Chromecast Ultra that's out there. It still has to be updated. The Buddy Pass was delayed. When you purchased the Founders Edition, not only did you get 3 months of Stadia Pro for yourself, but you also got 3 months for a friend. That they're not rolling that out until an indefinite date they haven't mentioned. Spare controllers don't appear to be shipping. My Wasabi Green that I ordered with this to go with the Buddy Pass that I got still hasn't arrived. I just have the Founders Edition. And then, worst of all, the worst part about this is that the games seemingly aren't playing at the standard that Google said they were. Take something like Destiny. The 4K Destiny is just up resolution 1080p Destiny at medium settings. And it kind of sucks. It looks pretty terrible on a large 4K TV. It's not actually high detail. It doesn't look 4K, and it looks like games like Red Dead Redemption 2 aren't really hitting 60 FPS on the Chromecast Ultra. Apparently, if you play on the PC and go to stadia.google.com, then you can get 60 FPS, like if I was playing on my laptop, but if I wanted to play on my TV, I'm limited artificially to 30 FPS, and it looks like they're up-resing 1440p instead of native 4K, which was kind of what they communicated with the launch of Stadia, was that things were going to be native 4K. It was actually going to be good, and it looks like they're just taking things and being like, hey, we're giving you worse. You're welcome. So that's basically all of the negatives. Everything that Google kind of promised for Stadia isn't exactly here yet. But if they can kind of get their act together and roll it out and have more AAA titles, have the actual support that you're supposed to get, as well as the actual resolution in detail of the games that we're expecting, well, then it makes a more compelling argument for the console replacement. But also, one of the positives is that even though games are running at 1080p medium right now, if there's an update to architecture in the future and Google swaps out their servers to give the user more power for their dedicated streaming, well, then there's no patching, there's no updating. You just get the better deliverance of performance from Google's side. So that's another one of the reasons why Stadia is really compelling, that you don't have to kind of iterate with the next generation of consoles. If ray tracing is coming out, well, then it should be implemented on Stadia without you having to pick up a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Scarlett. And that's all of the talk about the service. The lag doesn't really seem to be too bad, especially with me being here in Florida. I didn't have any noticeable issues, and that's kind of what I read across all of the reviews that I saw of Google Stadia, was that the lag is okay, it's decent. The rest of the services is really where Google screwed everything up. But let's go ahead and talk about the controller just for a second, because this is the main part of the experience of Stadia, at least right now, until they offer third-party controller support. But I actually kind of like it. The build quality is really great. The Founders Edition, blue and orange, magnificent. Blue and orange. I don't know if you know, I love blue and orange. Anyways, the D-pad is clicky and satisfying. It actually has some decent feedback, which is great. It's a huge part of a controller. Then it has a headphone jack on the bottom. It uses Type-C for charging and not micro USB, and that's about it. I hate a couple things about it. One, the triggers have no feedback. The L2 and R2 buttons just like are solid drops. There's no resistance whatsoever. It's kind of crappy. The buttons are notably undifferent and just kind of functional. They don't feel bad. They don't feel good. They're just okay. And then it has symmetrical analog sticks. I hate this so much. I hate the fact that they're symmetrical. Asymmetrical makes so much more sense for console gaming. I don't know why Google went with symmetrical. I hate it so much, but that's personal preference. I just don't like it. Otherwise, the construction quality, everything about this, the texture on the back of the controller, magnificent. So I'm gonna wrap this up before it goes on too much longer, but suffice it to say, for $130, this is the best console gaming experience that I could possibly get. And for $130, it's probably the best gaming experience you can get overall. However, that is with the caveat that you have internet decent enough to stream it, which if you live in the United States, probably isn't too hard, considering you need about 20 megabits per second to play 1080p 60 FPS gameplay. That's not horrendously out of the market for a lot of people. And then if you just want 720p 60 FPS, 10 megabits per second, which you can get on some bad ADSL lines. So it's not necessarily unobtainable for the price. I think Google's knocked it out of the park here. Obviously, they've screwed up in a lot of areas, not delivering on features, services, and games and codes for people to access Stadia. It kind of puts a bad taste in the mouth for what Google's going to deliver on in the future. But if they can get there, well then I'm excited that I got the Founders Edition, and hopefully it'll stay with me for a long time to come. So that's gonna wrap up our video on Google Stadia. Let me know what you think of it down below in the comments. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed it. My friends, don't forget to check out .tech domains. Specifically, go to go.tech/UFDtech and pre-register for the Black Friday sale so you can get an additional 10% off of the .tech domains when you purchase one for Black Friday. Do it, pre-register, my friends. Thank you. My friends, let me know what you think of Google Stadia. Let me know what you think of cloud gaming overall. I'm curious to hear what you think, and I'm going to be out of here. Thanks so much for watching this one. See you in the next one. Bye.